Hello, everybody. Welcome to another edition of All Things Aviation and Aerospace. I'm Vince Mickens with the Private Air Media Group. Had a really special show last week. We were live from the ProJet Aviation Education and Career Expo out at Leesburg Executive Airport in one of their hangars. And boy, what a turnout they had in spite of the weather and other challenges. That they had a really great turnout. It was a lot of fun hanging out with mostly high school kids, some college kids, and it was such a great event that I thought it'd be a good idea to get with the person that was in charge of it, Julie O'Brien, and kind of go over what took place and some of the highlights and things like that, because it was really that impressive. Also, we had some technical issues with Wi-Fi and stuff like that because there were so many people there. So it cut us in and out. And I thought, well, I'm going to bring back in some clips, and Julie we're going to share some photos from the event, and we're going to just kind of talk about all aspects of it. So first, let me welcome Julie O'Brien, the General Manager of ProJet Aviation out there at Leesburg Executive Airport. Julie, welcome to the program again.
Oh, thank you for having me back. I love it.
It's great to have you. It's been about a year since you were last on, and we were talking about everything last year during the pandemic and the plans that you have for this year. And it looks like the planning and everything kind of exceeded your expectations with this show.
It did. It definitely didn't disappoint. It was a great show. We had a great turnout. We had horrible weather, but it was a great day despite that. And I was really pleased with the way everything turned out. Lots of help.
Yeah.
For a lot of help.
Yes, you did. You had quite a bit of help. I thought it'd be a great thing to start out with talking a little bit about the history of this show. You shared that with us when you were on a year ago, but we've had grown quite a bit in terms of viewers and listeners. So I thought it'd be great for you to kind of tell us how the expo got started and what's all taken place to bring it to where it is now, and why it was such a great show on Friday.
Yeah, so I'm going into my 23rd year in aviation, and I've done a lot of different things throughout my career. And back 15 years ago, I was the director of marketing at the Frederick, Maryland airport for a company called Frederick Aviation. And we had quite a few school groups and scouting groups and Civil Air Patrol and Young Eagle groups coming through the airport, looking to kind of, for lack of a better word, a field trip to kind of see hands-on what was going on there. And it became really time consuming. I was doing several groups a week. And so I got with a couple other aviation professionals, and Sarah Thompson, who was doing a lot of the media relations for AOPA at the time, she and I sat down over a cup of coffee, and she said, what if you do one day and we invite them all in, and then you're done for the year? And that sounded genius to me. So I got with the president of Frederick Aviation at the time, Bill Caldell, and said, what do you think about this idea? He said, I think it's great. We could open up the hangar. I said, would you say a few words? He said, sure. Then you can say a few words, and we'll give everybody a pencil and call it a day. And that actually is what we did that very first year. Frederick lends itself to a lot of really great aviation businesses. AOPA is based there. Avemco Insurance is based there. There was a fixed wing flight school. There was a helicopter flight school, and the Maryland State Police Medevac unit is based there. And then Frederick Aviation, of course, had charter, maintenance, avionics, sales, and the FBO. So in and of itself, we had 5 divisions to talk about. So the kids came, and it was really inspirational. And then it just kind of grew from there. I never in my wildest dreams thought 15 years later, we'd be to this point and have 71 vendors and 800 students from 5 states and be giving away hundreds of thousands of dollars in scholarships and internships with big companies like General Dynamics. That never was part of that original plan. It just kind of grew all on its own and kind of took on a life of its own. And I'm super thankful and grateful for that.
Sure, absolutely. So when did you move the show to Leesburg Executive?
When I left Frederick in 2008, I came to work for ProJet, and ProJet at that time was in Winchester. So the event goes with me because it's my event. So I took it to Winchester for a couple of years.
Did not know that.
Yep. So I took it to Winchester, and then ProJet moved to Leesburg. So then the event moved to Leesburg. But it's funny, you know, things kind of just work out, and there's a rhyme and a reason even when we don't understand it. And we still have a lot of schools coming from the Frederick area because that's where it originated. And we have schools coming from the Winchester area, which is where it was for a few years. So all of those moves actually helped with the audience and the attendance and the people and the volunteers that get involved with a location change.
Yeah, I think one of the great things about it, it's a regional show. And as you mentioned, 5 states. And that just leaves a lot of room for growth to continue growing the show. And it also gives you quite the variety. I mean, we're talking 5 states that are very different in certain ways, you know, and so having those kids come from all over into one forum and being able to learn more about the industry. And, you know, the timing it's always worked out for you, but the timing has been good in recent times because aviation is booming. You know, it's just so much going on. And I mean, that was very evident Friday in terms of the enthusiasm, the energy, you know, the overall excitement, and the engagement from the students, which I was personally impressed with. I've been involved with having raised 3 daughters. I've been involved with the PTA and PTSA since they started school. So I know what this stuff is about, and I know the difference when you see students that are engaged and when they're not. And these kids were very engaged, very excited, paid attention to. I was impressed that they were all sitting in the audience paying attention to the presentations, even things like the scholarship and some of the other presentations that some kids might say were quote unquote boring, but they weren't. They were totally engaged. How'd you feel about that?
Yeah, well, that's one thing that has always happened miraculously. We target some really great kids. We target schools that already show some interest in aviation. They might have pilots clubs. They may have ROTC programs. They may have aerospace or strong STEM programs. Some of them are involved with Young Eagles and Civil Air Patrol. And so we try to target the right schools with the right kids, which changes your whole audience. It's also what keeps the vendors coming back because they want to invest their time and energy into shows where they're getting that kind of response from the students. And it's really a miracle to watch. I think I said it at the show. You bring all these kids from all these different states into one room, and it's amazing how they encourage each other that day. They cheer for each other. I mean, complete strangers. They get excited about seeing the money given to another student from another school, from another state. The energy level is very, very high. And that's not just because of the students. That's the level of speakers that we've been able to obtain. That's the energy level of the volunteers. The vendors get very excited. Most of the vendors that were in that room, this was not their first year. So they look forward to this all year. And they come with an expectation. And kids, you know, they can feel that. They can feel the energy. They engage when you engage in them, and they respect you when you respect them. So it's kind of a give and take, but it's been a really great thing. And I'm super proud of everybody that's involved. I really am. I can't be grateful enough.
Yeah, and you bring up a really important point too. When you talk about the exhibitors actually seeing value on their end because the kids are so engaged and so interested in their various types of businesses, et cetera, it's a great thing to see. So since we're talking about the show, why don't we share some of the, I'm gonna bring it up on the share screen. Why don't we share some of the the pictures
Okay.
that were at the show. And let me go ahead and bring it up. And I brought up the wrong one. Let me try this. There we go. I knew I would get it, eventually get it right. So let's just talk about this. This is just an overview. Are you seeing it on your screen okay?
I am. Yeah, I
Okay,
can
great.
see
That
it.
means that I did my rehearsal good. So this is a great shot of just how many kids were there, along with some teachers and parents and folks there in general. So what a great turnout and what a great shot. Anything you want to add to that with this photo?
It's funny when I look at it, it always blows me away because, the day before there were 10 airplanes parked in there and, all of that has to be moved out. And my FBO team, scrubs those floors, sets up all the tables and chairs. We had a lot of volunteers come in, a lot of vendors set up the day before. It's kind of like a wedding. You prepare all year and set everything up, and then in a few hours it's over and you're like, what just
Right.
happened?
I know. I know. Yeah.
A lot
Yeah.
of
So.
people in a very confined space, but it works.
Yeah. So one of the highlights that unfortunately for everybody we didn't get to see, and we didn't get to see them actually do their jump, and I didn't. I was going to have the privilege of being able to go up with them. I wasn't going to be jumping, but I would at least be up in the plane with them. Are the Army's Golden Knights. So it was really neat still to have a chance to talk with them, which I'll play an interview later. But tell us about that and your involvement with them and having them involved in the show.
So they have come in the past. I think it was 2018. They brought a smaller jump team and did jump into the event from a helicopter. We've established and grown that relationship over the years. And so they brought their Dash 8, which is a much larger fixed wing airplane. And they came in the day before. So I was actually able to have dinner with those guys the night before. And they're just awesome. And they really embraced the event. They loved it. They loved talking with the students. It's certainly upped recruitment at the Army booth because they're just cool. Everything they do is cool. They exude cool. They were still able to make some really awesome presentations. You can see how tickled I am there in the front with my lithograph that they autographed for me. And
Yes,
they've promised to come back next year and get the jump done. And so you'll get a chance to ride with them next year. I said, you guys owe me, and they said absolutely. So they'll be coming back to next year's event and doing the jump. But they're just really stellar guys, and what they do is just awesome, and they're the best at it in the country.
absolutely. The other thing that was interesting about them, and again, people will hear it in the interview, is that they come from different aspects of the Army. So they're not necessarily just coming in the Army and becoming a jumper. Some of them were like A&P mechanic or infantry or other different jobs or responsibilities in the Army. I thought that was interesting. Tell us real quick about that baton and
So
how that works.
they jump with a baton when they jump, and then especially at events, and then they will present those to someone significant at the event that they're jumping into. That is a baton that was presented at our event to Richard Zahir, that is front and center there under the P in ProJet. And Richard and I are great friends. He is the president and CEO of Paramount Business Jets. They are a charter aircraft broker. He's also the founder of Best You, Best Me, which is a nonprofit organization that ProJet partners with him on. And everything is not aviation that he does. It's from giving out food and clothing to folks that are in desperate need, to traveling, to raising money, to pulling people out of snowstorms, lots of different things. But this was the first year that we ran the Expo through that organization as a nonprofit so that our sponsors and scholarship sponsors could write the event off. So he's an important partner, and he was completely taken by surprise. He had no idea that they were going to present that to him.
Yeah, that was fantastic. Well, I'm looking forward to that next year. Every event has a couple of spectacular things that happen. One of them was going to be them jumping, but the other one was this, the drill team, the U.S. Air Force Honor Guard drill team, kind of blew us all away.
For
Um,
sure.
let's talk about that for a sec.
Yeah, they've come and performed for many years, never with this large of a team. Just like with the Knights, these guys are from different walks of the Air Force, and then they make this team. It is one of the most impressive drill team, rifle team demonstrations in the world. They are on point. It was amazing. And it's the first time that the folks in our hangar have actually done a standing ovation for a demonstration like that. It was pretty moving with the American flag there in the background and people just supporting our military that day and literally just rising up and cheering for our military. That was a pretty moving moment for me.
Yeah, it was a moving moment, I believe, for everybody that was in that hangar. So really very nice. Speaking of Air Force, I wanted to mention, so Brigadier General Charles Mcgee, who's going to turn 102 in a few weeks, he had received an award out in Los Angeles. And before departing, this is on the ramp at Frederick, he had a chance to inspire some Civil Air Patrol cadets that came specifically to see him before departing. And so this is just a couple of quick shots of him talking with them, a photo op, and just them being very excited. They're all high school age kids. So it kind of ties in a little bit with what you do with your program, with your expo and everything. And since he wasn't able to make it because of the weather, I wanted to at least give him an honorable mention. This is before we left for Los Angeles. That's the crew there and the kids in the back. And then the kids had an opportunity to pose in front of a jet. Actually, what this was neat about is this is something, so most people think, you fly military and then you're going to probably fly airline when you get out. And this is to let them know there's another avenue, there's another area. It's called business aviation, where you can fly corporate or charter, et cetera. And so it was great to expose them to that and let them see what that opportunity is. I think all three of them are seniors in high school, so they're getting ready to go to that next step. It was a great moment there. And then coming back, another great moment was seeing these pilot trainees and their instructors on the ramp in Wichita. We made a stop in Wichita coming back, and the general saw the T6s and T38s and got really excited. And of course, the irony is that he trained 80 years ago. That's in 80 years ago to become a pilot. In fact, he started training 5 years before the Air Force was born. Next year, the Air Force is celebrating their 75th anniversary of existence. And he was training as a Tuskegee Airman 5 years prior to that. So these kids were, I call them kids, but these young men and women were really excited. This is the T6 behind them. Again, two instructors and two of the students. And then the T38, again, a couple instructors and a couple students, starting their flying careers standing next to a guy who started his 80 years ago. So it was kind of neat, and I just wanted to show that this is the next level. This is where it goes after these kids make a decision about what they want to do in the industry. Let's talk about the scholarships that you guys gave out. We can start with this one. I believe this was Embry-Riddle Aeronautical University, and I'll let you take it from here.
Yeah, so that's the Embry-Riddle Aeronautical University scholarship. Went to a Civil Air Patrol cadet, Carter Long, and that's a coveted award every year. $20,000 is a lot of money. We actually Friday gave away a little over $133,000 in total, and
Wow.
this was just one of those awards. This year put us up cumulatively over 1.3 million in the 8 years we've been doing scholarships. That was something we just started 8 years ago.
That's an impressive number.
Yeah, people just keep giving, and it's awesome. That was the Airline Pilots Association Award for $1,000 to Logan Reuter. Yeah, it was just fun. We gave out over 30 scholarships, and I just, I said it at the beginning of the event, and I'll say it today. I love giving away money. It's fun. And
those are a couple first officers, huh?
Yeah.
And a captain.
Yep. And they love coming. They support the event strongly every year. And a lot of our vendors, probably a third of them, give scholarships. So they get behind not just coming and sharing their career and opportunities within the industry, but they actually put their money where their mouth is, so to speak, and want to see these kids succeed. That's Paragon Aviation Network. That's a global network of private FBOs like ProJet around the world. And they were here. They had a booth. They support the event as a corporate sponsor and a scholarship sponsor. And a lot of these vendors stay in touch with their scholarship winner too. They connect on that day.
Oh, so they do a follow-up.
Follow them through their college career and sometimes into their professional career. So it's really fun to watch these kids embrace the opportunity. That's all of our winners in one place. So that's what $133,000 looks like right there.
Yeah, there you go. And I think what's kind of neat too is you require them to be present to receive the scholarship. I think that serves a few purposes, and one, it's you're doing something for them, so why not be there? But the other thing is it engages them even more with your expo, etc.
Yeah, we require our winners to be on site. It kind of sucks the wind out of the sails if you call somebody's name out and they're not actually there.
Couldn't agree more.
It kind of takes something away from the student and from the donor. We like to have everybody get excited. We like to connect the winners with their sponsors. We like them to meet. We like to hear everyone cheer for them when their name is called. We bring them up on stage. And that's just part of the process. It kind of gets them kick-started into, wow, this is an exciting industry with a ton of opportunity and hundreds of people that want to support and help mentor you to greatness. And that's really what it's all about at the end of the day.
Sure. So tell us what your plans are for 2022, coming out of this event last Friday with such success and such turnout and excitement. What are you looking at going into next year's event?
Well, let's see. Always bigger and better.
Right.
We're almost at full. Well, we are. This year we were at full capacity for space. So I'm not sure we can grow vendors or students, but we can grow opportunities. So there's obviously a need for more scholarship money. That's going to be something that we work hard on. We want to work on more demonstrations, more aerial demonstrations. The Air Force just emailed me this morning about possibly donating a flight. I don't know what that's going to look like yet, possibly in a military aircraft to a student. We're definitely going to have the nights back. We're going to enhance our K9 demonstration. We're probably going to add some sort of keynote speaker that has to do with agricultural aviation, which are your modern day barnstormers, I like to call them.
Sure.
There's a lot of things to kind of highlight. Maintenance is a huge growing part of our industry. We would like to highlight that a little bit more in the future. And I've already talked to our PHI Medevac unit folks here that live they live in my building. They're just down the hall. But we might actually do an emergency kind of reenactment on the ramp where we kind of do a mock accident and they land and they load the patient and fly off, because there's a lot of people that haven't seen that. And that's a real vital part of emergency services within aviation. So in this industry, the sky really is not the limit. We can keep growing. We can keep advancing. We can keep showing folks what everything's about. This was the first year that we had a retired astronaut. He's already offered to come back. The kids loved him, Frank Culbertson. They were mesmerized by his story. He's been to space many times, was a commander on the International Space Station, shared some very cool photos You know, these are the kind of opportunities where kids, you know, it's different to just hear about something and then actually meet someone that's done it and touch aircraft and ride in them and see them and have discovery flights and work the simulators. So we're excited about 2022. I can't wait to start putting it together.
Absolutely. As we wrap up, before I go to the interview clips, and I know you have things to do running the ProJet Aviation, but any other highlights that you may not have mentioned that you want to bring up now? Anything else that stood out to you?
Think so. I think we've covered a lot. I would just say
Yeah.
that if you're a student out there and you're seeing this and you're like, wow, that looks like something I would like to get involved in, you should. And schools, whole school groups do come, but we had a lot of individuals come this year too, who reached out to me by email and just got on the registration list and came with their parent and decided that they were going to take the day off of school and spend the day with us. And I would just say that it's a day well spent. There's a lot of
Right.
opportunity.
Yeah, you said that was a pretty boisterous turnout of the individuals that registered kind of last minute. So that's a really encouraging sign, if you ask me.
It is. It's good for them and it's good for the industry.
Good, great. Well, Julie, thank you so much for taking the time. I know you're still recovering from all the excitement from last Friday, but taking the time to kind of recap everything that happened. And thanks for sharing those great photos and everything. As I mentioned, I have 4 interviews that I'm getting ready to play the clips of with the Golden Knights and a couple of other of your exhibitors there, and to talk about it. And then Anna Robinson, who is my guest co-host, who is a first officer and a graduate of Embry-Riddle Aeronautical University. So looking forward to that, and looking forward to next year with you.
Well, thank you for having me and much success to you as well.
Yeah, thank you very much. All right, well, take care, and we'll talk to you soon.
Okay, bye.
Bye. So everybody, as I mentioned, I have interview clips from our live coverage, and I had to we had some challenges, as I mentioned earlier, with regard to the Wi-Fi and with cellular, because there were so many people there and we were really bogging down the system in the hangar. But we did manage to clean it up a bit, and at least I got some interviews done with some key people that were in attendance, and it'll give you an idea of just the kind of conversations and the engagement that took place. I'm going to start it out with Anna Robinson. Anna flew all the way from Seattle to guest co-host with me. She's been out of school 4 years, graduated from Embry-Riddle Aeronautical University, Daytona Beach, with a degree in aeronautical science. And shortly afterwards, got on board with SkyWest Airlines, sitting right seat. She used to fly CRJs. Now she flies the, oh gosh, the Embraer 175, EC 175. And she's been busy flying and working her way towards one day wanting to be in the 777. So without further ado, let me go ahead and bring that up and share it with you.
Your background in terms of, you know, when you got the bug to fly, and how you now, you know, in your 4th year of being a first officer with SkyWest.
are involved in aviation. So, I mean, the human aspect of it is really important to understand as well to me.
Particularly in regards to safety.
Absolutely. Absolutely. 100% agree with that.
Yeah.
So I graduated from Embry-Riddle and became a flight instructor there. And then got hired by SkyWest, and here we are 4 years later. Became a flight instructor there.
Yeah.
And
So,
then,
so tell us about the transition from Embry-Riddle into flying for, how did that come about?
100% agree with that.
You got the job at SkyWest sitting in the right seat. And
So
you were in you're flying, tell us about the aircraft you flew and when you tell us about the background.
yeah, absolutely. So to become an airline transport pilot, ATP, you have to have a certain number of flight hours and qualifications for that. So coming straight out of getting your licenses, you don't typically have that many hours. Required 1,000 hours with the 4-year aviation degree, Part 141 school that I was through. So I had to build my hours somehow. And when I got my CFI, I realized how much I really, really enjoyed training other people in what I loved. So I became a flight instructor and flight instructed for Embry-Riddle for a year and a half or so, building that flight time, and became a cadet with SkyWest when I heard of that opportunity as well, which is a program where they set up a mentor with you and go over your logbook preparation, your interview preparation. They do a lot of contacts with you that you might not have known anything about had you not been in the airline world before. So that was really nice because I am the only one in my family who has been a pilot. So it was very exciting to see that cadet program come to the interview. And once I had my hours, I was able to interview and then get hired on as soon as I had my hours. So it was a really smooth transition. It was really nice working with everyone in the school who was in contact with SkyWest as well.
What's it been like flying? You've been doing it for a while now. What kind of routes do you fly, and what's the experience been like for you as you've settled into being a professional airline pilot, commercial pilot? What's the experience been like for you?
It's been an adventure. Like we were talking about the Golden Knights are an adventure. Being a pilot is an adventure. Every day I get to come home and love what I was doing all day long. I typically work 4-day trips, so I'm away for about 4 days at a time from my base. And that in itself is kind of like a built-in travel that I got to see a lot of the country that I had never even thought about going to. I was based in Minneapolis for a couple of years, got to see a lot of the Midwest. They do a lot of hub and spoke kind of operations out of our bases, so we get to see a lot of the smaller towns. Being a regional airline, we serve the smaller population kind of routes. However, with my first aircraft was the CRJ, which is anywhere from a 50 to a 76 seater. And I flew all 3 series of that, the 200, 700, and 900, which I call it a great trainer jet. I think it's a great trainer jet. It doesn't have FADEC on the 200. There's a lot of systems from way back when it was built, and it's really fun to kind of learn the real pilot stuff around being an airline pilot as well.
And learning real pilot stuff is kind of a good idea.
It's very important, yeah, because systems fail. You never know when you're gonna need those like backups, right? The autopilot's not on the entire flight, I promise. So then last year, I transitioned to the E-175, the Embraer fleet that we fly for SkyWest.
More modern.
Oh, it's very, very, very slick. I call it slick. It's
faster too, isn't it?
In some cases it is. Yeah, the 7 and 9 like to go pretty fast, but definitely faster than the 200. Yes. Yeah. It's easy to get up to speed and climb through the flight levels, whereas the 200 is like you're really pushing it, giving it all she's got, you know. So.
Was it all you expected when, once you really got into the game?
Oh, I think it was more. I think it was more. It's a whole different thing than what I was expecting, because it is work and it is got a lot of different aspects to it. You have your crews, you have your weather, you have your maintenance issues, you have all of these different dynamics that you don't deal with until you're up in the flight deck. And and experiencing all of those events. So I think it's really rewarding because I have the best office view. I always love
That front office can't beat it.
exactly. I find myself just randomly, it might be a great flight, might be a normal flight, might be a challenging flight, but randomly I'll just find myself like, wow, I'm really getting paid to fly a plane right now and look at this beautiful scenery.
Yeah.
It's the best job.
And you guys do get really great benefits, and one of them is that you get to fly on pretty much whatever you want to go wherever you want to go. So, you know, I bring that up for this reason. A lot of times people think, oh, I start out at a regional, you know, and I'm sitting right seat, and I probably can only fly on the regional. And it's like, no, it's connected with Delta and Alaska, et cetera, in your case, right? And so you were able to come nonstop from Seattle to here on their dime.
I was. It's a great benefit of the airlines, partnering with all of the major airlines that we do.
Yeah.
We do get those flight benefits. And as a pilot, you also get jump seat privileges, which allows you to open more doors into different airlines.
Right.
So
you don't mind being up there with your buddies.
right. I don't mind. Hey, a seat to see, right?
Yeah.
And it got me here today. So I'm really, really glad for it.
So the obvious question, what are your aspirations for the next level? Obviously you want to become a captain. And then what are your favorite aircraft? What are some aircraft that you would like, okay, I got to fly that one day?
Oh man, I would love to fly the 777. The 777 has been like the big wide body, you know, international routes. I think that's such a fun idea. And every time I get on a wide body, it's just like all the more exciting because it is such a heaping large machine that is able to fly.
Yeah.
I think I would love. I think it's fascinating. But true. I mean, it is. It's giant, and it holds, you know, over 200 people, and it's probably my dream plane. I would love to fly for an airline that flies the 777s. I would love to move on to the majors, the legacy airlines, and fly larger routes and larger planes and
so
more
SkyWest
places.
is partnered with Delta, right?
It is,
in terms
yes.
of the transition.
There's not like a flow-through program, but we partner with United, Delta, American, and Alaska for our flying partners.
Okay, and you get flying benefits with all four of those.
Depending on your base, yes.
Oh, depending on your base.
Right. Some bases.
Oh, that makes sense.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
And also your fleet for some reason. Every CRJ pilot gets United and Delta benefits no matter what base. And then if you're based in Alaska or an American base as well, you get those on top of that. So that's very nice as well.
Very good. Well, it's great to have an opportunity to talk with you again, kind of for me to refresh
your
background,
it's
but
been
also
a minute.
for our viewers to also hear what an interesting background you've had, from your passion to going to school for it, and then, you know, now working in the industry and working your way up.
Thank you.
Which you are definitely doing. So, and it's great for you to be here at this expo to be able to share your experience with other aspiring young aviation professionals. So, all good. Thank you very much, Anna Robinson, co-hosting with me today here at the ProJet Aviation Education and Career Expo at Leesburg Executive Airport here in Virginia. And we will continue with other interviews in a bit. Thank you, everybody, for watching. I'm Vince Mickens with Private Air Media Group. I just realized my mic was off. Yes, that was Anna Robinson. And as you can see, there's a lot of activity in the background. It was really great for her to come all the way from Seattle to be able to hang out at the expo and also be a guest co-host with me. As you can see, she has quite the interesting background. And so it was a lot of fun to have her. The next person that I have was a great conversation. She's also a longtime friend and colleague. Unfortunately, the audio was not the greatest. I did try to tweak it a little bit and see if I could, you know, improve it. So we'll see what happens with that. And I'm actually making the switch over to that. and since and there we go, and I got it. So Marcy Veroni, she is the Senior Vice President of Avemco Insurance Company out there in Frederick, Maryland. As I mentioned, she's a longtime friend and colleague. She has been with that company, I believe she said 35 years, and has grown all the way up through the ranks from being a temp to being, pretty much second in charge. So it was really great to have an opportunity. But one of the things that's really key in talking to Marcy was about her, about the industry, because we think of a lot of different things with regard to aviation, being a pilot, being a mechanic, and all the other things that you can do in the industry. We don't often think about the career possibilities and opportunities in aviation insurance. And it's a big piece of it, because if you don't have good aviation insurance or have aviation insurance, in most cases, you can't own the aircraft, you can't do this, you can't do that. So it's a very important aspect of it. And it was great to have the conversation with her. So let me see if I can bring her up and share that conversation that we had. Talk about aviation insurance and all of the things that it entails. So I want to kind of talk about that and let the young people here know what are some of the opportunities. So
Sure.
Tell us a little bit about the company first.
Sure. So at Avemco Insurance Company, we're celebrating 60 years of insuring pilots and airplanes.
And you started working there when you were 5, right?
I started when I was 19 years old. I'll be there 35 years.
Did you really?
Yes.
Wow.
I started as a temp, and I'm happy to say that I'm now Senior Vice President of Avemco Insurance
See,
Company.
that's what they get for trying to be cute. It's just like, yeah, I've been here a long time. No, that's amazing.
But we're based in Frederick, Maryland, and we insure people that fly piston-powered airplanes for pleasure and business. We insure people that build airplanes, rent airplanes, flight schools, flying clubs, gliders, and special light sport aircraft.
What has kept you in this business for so long?
Oh, the passion of my customers, pilots. When I first started there, I went to school to be an attorney, and I needed a job until I found my real job. And within a week.
So you studied law
Yes.
and ended up in insurance.
Yes. But there's contracts involved.
Absolutely.
But the first week, first week I was there, I went to the local airport in Frederick, and there was a guy building an airplane in a hangar, and he was going to fly it. And I was like, this guy's crazy. But he taught me what fabric was, and I fell in love with it. And I've been there 35 years. I've worked my way up, and I love everything to do with aviation and our industry and the people.
So was that your introduction to aviation,
Yes.
that very experience?
I will say when I was 12, I'm from Pittsburgh. My family took me to Leesburg Airport where there was an air show, and I got to see, I'm old enough that I saw Bob Hoover in action. And that was my first intro, but I didn't know anything about it at all. So yeah.
Besides the obvious of things like selling insurance and then the contracts that can be pretty complicated depending on the individual, the ownership of the aircraft, et cetera, and so forth. Tell us a little bit more about what you do and what people could expect if they work in your industry.
In my industry, well, there's several different positions. What I do is an underwriter. So we underwrite the risk. And what I told the kids today, there's math involved, there's analytics. I almost feel like I'm a detective. I like people. So you kind of size people up in a way. But there's accounting positions, there's marketing positions, there's legal positions. So it runs the gamut of everything, but it's all under the umbrella of aviation. And I think the recreational side is where it's at. It's really a fun industry.
And you're a national company.
Yes.
How many locations?
We are the one and only.
You're the one and only.
In Frederick, we're the only direct writer.
Beautiful headquarters too, by the way.
Thank you, sir. We're in base to final of the Frederick Airport, if anyone's ever flown over. Our name's on the building.
Yeah, kind of hard to miss.
But we are all in one location. Frederick is we say world headquarters, but we are licensed to write in all 50 states in the U.S.
Yeah. So, not to put you on the spot, but what are some of the challenges in the industry sometimes in terms of insuring people, in terms of their health, age, things like that? Or do you guys have formulas to work with that?
So right now, there is a big thing going on in our industry with age, and it doesn't affect us really because we've been in business for 60 years. So we have 60 years of data that tells us I can put an 82-year-old in a Cessna 172. If that same person wants to jump into a $500,000 Cirrus, then there's more jumps that they're going to have to do to get into it. As far as challenges, I love people, so it's hard to say no sometimes, but I've learned to say, I wish I could help you, but this policy is not going to pay if you get hurt or injured, so I'm not going to be able to help you. That's really the only challenge. I'm one of those lucky people. I love what I do, and I have the best job in the whole entire world. So.
Absolutely. We've heard a lot of that today from all of our guests, so it definitely rings true. I was just going to kind of still touching on the older customer for you guys. So as an example, if somebody is flying a single pilot jet and they're in their 80s,
Yes.
and I've heard, and I've actually heard a couple instances of this where, for example, in one situation, the insurance company required them, and I don't know what insurance company, but their insurance coverage required them to have a competent pilot in the co-pilot seat to be with them when they fly. Sure. Even though they passed the physical, they can pass their FAA medical, but they still have that requirement. But do you guys deal with those kind of things, or do you have what's your approach with it?
So I've heard that a lot from my customers that fly piston, but also might have another airplane.
Right.
We specialize in piston only. So
okay.
I'm not doing the jets or the turbine or King Airs or anything like that.
Okay. I'm sorry I missed that.
No. But if I have somebody flying like a Seneca and they're in their 80s, what we'll say is you have to get a medical and a flight review every year. If you do that, continue to train, pay your premiums, we'll continue to insure you.
Okay.
Sure.
Yeah.
You must get a lot of exposure to the actual industry working with pilots every day. Do you
absolutely do.
Enjoy that part of it?
Absolutely. And in my other passion is women in minorities and getting them into aviation. So I'm on the board of Women in Aviation. I belong to NGPA, OBAT, Sisters of the Sky. I mean, I like to network and help people. So
yes, that's wonderful.
That's great. Thank you.
No, that's awesome. So any advice to these young people that are walking around here? We have all these high schoolers and some college kids, and they're all aspiring to get into some aspect of aviation and aerospace.
I say find someone who's doing it, ask them questions, investigate, and what all the speakers are saying. Never say never. You are what you think you are. And if you believe you can do it, you can do it. Amen.
And any other questions?
No, just thank you for all of your passion and your involvement in the industry. It means a lot to have people who are advocating for the minorities and the women and all of the underrepresented people.
There's a groundswell going on, folks. It's happening. This is the first year I've walked into an event where there are women at every single booth. I remember days when I would walk in and it was me and one other woman and all men. So it's a good time to be in our industry.
Well, I think it's a great time to be in this industry. Yeah. It's wide open. It's we haven't had this kind of surge in decades.
I'm excited.
Yeah.
I just saw something, Flying Magazine, they have a new owner, and his name's Craig Fuller. Not the Craig Fuller, but
another Craig Fuller.
But he used the word renaissance, and I love that. There's a renaissance happening, so
I agree.
Now.
Yeah, now's the time, and it's wide open. That's the big point.
Yes.
So it's one of the reasons we had you, because insurance is another very important aspect of it.
Don't believe what you hear.
Hey, Marcy, it's good to see you as always, and it's a pleasure to have you on. Thanks for stopping by.
Thank you.
All right.
I appreciate it.
All righty.
And there you go, Marcy Veroni, the Senior Vice President at a Vimco Insurance Company, dealing with the aviation insurance industry and the opportunities there. Again, as you saw, plenty of activity in the background. We apologize for the distortion on her audio. We were, again, having some challenges, some technical challenges there at the event. But I think you got the gist of it. Some great opportunities there on the aviation side, on the insurance side of things. And so we were talking a little earlier in the show about the Army's Golden Knight, and I actually had a chance to talk with one of the representatives about what that's all about and what they do, and how the opportunity and one of the things that stood out to me amongst everything was just the opportunity of how they come from different aspects of responsibilities with their jobs in the Army, if you will, and all get together and join this team called the Golden Knights, and they go out and do demonstration skydiving to a whole nother level. So had Army Specialist Rain Fuller, who we chatted with, and let's just let you hear what he had to say. Welcome to the show.
No, it's not until here.
Yeah, it's great to have you, and really excited with the conversation we were having. So we're gonna play back a little bit and ask you to backtrack a little bit. Ask you to tell us a little bit about how you even got into how did you become interested in skydiving, and particularly with you.
Okay, so the first half of my life was waiting until my 18th birthday so I could finally jump out of a plane for the first time. I always wanted to skydive. And my first jump, before I hit the ground, I just knew that was my passion. I wanted to basically make a career out of that. There just weren't a ton of opportunities to get paid to skydive. One day, though, after I got my skydiving license, I had a Golden Knight actually approach me. He was on the team back in the 70s, and he said that he saw some potential and asked me if I knew about the team. So I enlisted into the Army to try and be a part of this elite organization. Ever since, I've gotten to travel around the world and just get to live my life skydiving and share my passion and letting other people know that they can also chase their dreams like that.
Absolutely. So what's interesting to me about what you guys do is you do it like a demonstration team where you go around and show what you're capable of in terms of precision skydiving, etc. But there's an application to it in the Army that is also about what the Army can do as part of its overall, I think you understand what I'm trying to say.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I mean, a big thing is that, in a sense, we're almost recruiters because we're, trying to showcase what the Army can do. I mean, the Army is what gave me this opportunity to make a career out of what I love. And even before I became a Golden Knight, just enlisting into the Army and having that chance to really mature and grow up and have that experience is something that I'm very grateful for. And I want to be able to kind of share that and break the stigma about the Army. There's actually so many opportunities in it. As far as aviation alone, you have so many different jobs that you can go into that just set you up for success. So it's cool that we're able to share that. And when we do those shows and we land, we're able to interact with the crowd. And especially just to see some awestruck 10-year-old who just watched a parachute land next to him. I think that's the most rewarding experience ever, to be able to inspire that and just make an impact, because I remember seeing it for the first time when I was a kid. It blew my mind.
Well, I guess it is rewarding. I don't know why anybody would want to jump out of a perfectly good airplane. But
There's such thing as a perfectly good airplane, though. I mean,
That's a good
it just
question.
has to take off.
as a pilot, I just had to say that.
Absolutely, I get it. Well, to be fair, the door was open when I jumped out.
That's true.
Very good. Good response. You've also had the opportunity to do that before. Anna, you were shaking your head in agreement with what he's saying.
I think it's exciting. No, I'm excited about it. I would love to. I've never actually skydived, but it's an adventure, right?
Okay, well, you'll have to come with us when we come back next year.
Oh my goodness, I would love to.
Oh,
That's like a
it's
dream.
set, all right?
Okay.
We're gonna
Okay.
strap a parachute to you.
All right.
You can use mine.
Oh, is it safe?
No, but
No.
I think you'd be okay.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Yeah, that's pretty good. It's funny though, because I was looking forward to going up with you guys, not jumping, but just the experience of going. Well, I might have jumped if you guys said, "Hey, you want to put a chute on?"
The alarm was going off.
Right.
Red lights flashing.
Well, that's a whole different ballgame. That's called ejection. Anyhow, What's your recommendation? You were talking about how kids get excited and get inspired. So today there are a lot of high school and college age kids here that are trying to figure out what they want to do next. So in representation of the Golden Knights and with what you've experienced, what's your advice?
Well, I think one of the hardest things in life is finding your passion, trying to find like what it is that you want to do. If you know that you're even remotely interested in anything aviation, coming to events like this, where you have all these different vendors and booths set up and you get to talk to people and really, kind of branch out and see what there is to offer. I would say give a lot of different things a shot. And definitely don't let people telling you that's a pipe dream stop you, because I had a lot of people telling me, especially with how young I am, that being a Golden Knight, being on the United States Army parachute team was nearly impossible. If you find something, whether it's being a pilot or, an aerospace engineer, as crazy as it could sound, who's ever told in that moment, oh yeah, you'll definitely be able to go do that. Everyone tells you how hard it's going to be, but if the hardest part is finding what you want to do. So if you know what you want to do and every little decision you make is in service to doing that, it's easy because you have the drive and you know what you want to do. So I would say follow your dream with that.
Yeah. Anna, have you had that experience as well, working your way into being now a first officer and airline pilot?
Absolutely. There's plenty of people who don't think that it's the right fit for you, but I think you're the only person who can decide that. And
Absolutely.
as passionate as you are about your job, I'm just as passionate about aviation, and I couldn't imagine a different industry for me. Whether or not other people can imagine that, that's on them. So I definitely think that anybody who wants to and has the opportunity should pursue it. Absolutely.
So let's talk a little bit about the training regimen that you guys go through to become a Golden Knight. How does that start, and what does that entail?
So whenever I went through last year, it was a minimum of 100 free fall jumps required just to even go to the selection process.
Over what period of time?
For the 100 jumps, just whatever time it takes you. We've had people that have been skydiving for years, and then after all that time, they accumulated 100 jumps. Some people got their skydiving license and in 3 months knocked that jump requirement out. But once you have it and you go to the Golden Knight selection, it's 2 months of just rigorous jumping. We would jump between 7 to 10 times a day, Monday through Saturday.
And what kind of, when you say rigorous, what kind of jumping is it? I mean, are you guys doing precision things, or what's that all? Give us a better idea.
Okay, so a big thing about it is actually our accuracy with the parachute. So as Golden Knights, like one thing we pride ourselves on is landing on a target the size of a dinner plate. That's what people see up close. We also go into the free fall mechanics as well. We do a lot of precision maneuvers. We will literally jump out of the aircraft and travel about 1.5 miles apart from each other and then fly directly towards each other, crossing within inches at 180 miles an hour apiece. So it's a lot of
whoa.
That's our diamond track maneuver. So
that's why airplanes go 180 miles an hour. I can't even imagine that, in terms of passing as two human beings and within inches of each other.
Yeah, no, the fastest I've gone personally is about 230 miles per hour.
Oh my goodness.
Falling through the sky. Wow. And it's a different feeling, On average, we fall at about 120 whenever we're in that kind of like boxman, belly to earth style. But one thing you learn with skydiving is there's always different flight dynamics. You could actually learn to fall standing straight up or head down on your back. Just all these different dynamic maneuvers that you can do.
Yeah. So once you've become a Golden Knight and you start touring with them, how often do you guys practice in between shows?
So every year we do an annual certification cycle. So we'll go down to Homestead, Florida from January to March. And it's a lot like tryouts where we're jumping about 10 times a day. The whole time we're keeping track of our target score. So there is actually a scoring system for whenever we land, and we're just constantly trying to keep that as low as possible. We work just basically through the different maneuvers we'll do for the show. And then in between a regular show season, so normally outside of COVID, we would be gone basically every weekend. We'd leave on a Thursday to wherever we are going in the globe, do our 2 or 3 jumps, and then fly home, have a day or 2 to reset, and then go right back out on show site.
Wow. Go ahead.
With this time having more time off, we've just been going out to the drop zone on our own during the weekdays and just training as much as we can.
Gotcha. So, Rain, where are you from?
I'm from McKinney, Texas.
Okay, that's where you grew up?
Yes.
And that's where you first got your idea about skydiving?
Yes, there's a place called Skydiving Spaceline Dallas that my parents took me to for my 18th birthday. And after I did my first jump, I remember the next year I told them that they had to go with me.
Speaking of parents, what did they think when you said, "Hey, I want to be a professional military skydiver"?
Oh, I'm sure my mom is still crying. No, they know that I had a passion for it. As soon as I landed, they told me that they had a feeling that this was something that I was gonna pursue.
So they were very supportive.
Absolutely. And my dad, he actually went to a military college. So I think whenever I told him that I was serious about joining the Army, the first thing he did was laugh. He's like, "You're not the type, you know, you're not going to go into the military." But he was really supportive. And whenever I did, I know that they're proud. So it means a lot to me.
Do you have any siblings, and are they interested in the same thing?
I do. And I've gotten one of them to jump with me. The others, unfortunately, it's going to take some convincing.
Yeah.
But yeah, so.
Wow. Anna, did you have any other questions for Rain?
I was actually fascinated by how each individual member of the Golden Knights have their own background. Do each of them have their own specialty beyond the Golden Knights?
Yeah, so any one of us that join the Army, we go into our regular military occupation specialty. And it doesn't matter which one we go into before we go to the team. We recruit from literally all branches. We have an explosive ordnance disposal technician, an EOD tech. We have a ranger, communication specialist, satellite intel. So all walks of the Army come forward to the team.
That's really cool.
It's really cool. We have that
Wow. Really
diversity.
well rounded.
That's really neat. Yeah, I think that's a neat aspect of it. It just goes to show, even if you kind of specialize in one area, it doesn't mean that you still can't become a Golden Knight.
Oh yeah, absolutely. And a lot of people, they spend a lot of time in the Army before they find out about the team too, and then they come over and they just get to do something completely different in the Army. It's a very different lifestyle.
Yeah.
So
Any closing words for aspiring young jumpers?
go out there and do a skydive, because you never know if you could fly if you're too afraid to jump. So most of the best things in life are on the other side of fear. I think that being able to face that, especially if you're scared of the idea of jumping, is one of the most rewarding things that you could do for yourself. So I think even if you do it just once, it's a life-changing experience.
Well, Army Specialist Rain Fuller of the Golden Knights, thank you so much for spending some time with us.
Absolutely. And since you weren't able to fly up in the plane with us, I did get you an exclusive Golden Knights black team patch so you could represent the team.
I'll represent. Here we go.
There
I'm
you
all
go.
set. I will put it on my flight jacket, actually.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, as you can see, it's really patched up. So I'll add this to it, and then I'll have people going, "What is that?"
Yeah.
It's the Golden Knights, the
So
black
wings
team.
the parachute.
Yeah.
That's right.
Hey, thanks for joining us.
Hey, thank you so much for having me. I appreciate it.
It's a pleasure. Well, that's to be determined if I'm ever going to go actually skydiving. It's been something I've thought about over the years, and I don't know. I'm still challenged with jumping out of a perfectly good airplane. So we'll see if that happens next year, or at least I'll go up with them. I don't know if I'll actually jump. But what an interesting type of career to talk about, both from the military aspect and then just in general in terms of having a skydiving career of that sort. So we're a little bit over time, but I have one interview left that I want to share from the Expo. And it was it was actually a lot of fun. All of the interviews were great, but this next gentleman, he was a hoot, for lack of a better way to put it. So I am going to bring him up, and
PHI Health is a national.
and I just brought him up without. Hang on a second. And I want to introduce him first. So this gentleman's name is Skip Delo. He's with PHI Health. He's a captain. He has quite the storied background in terms of flying helicopters. PHI Health deals with Medevac type of work, and it's actually pretty interesting in terms of how he's gotten involved, what he does. And so without further ado, let me go ahead and bring that up for you guys to see. And tell us what PHI Health is.
PHI Health is a national company. We operate 90 bases across the country. And these are Medevac bases. So we place aircraft either with hospitals or at airports, and we respond to calls made by local EMS and pick up patients where they are and take them where they need to go to get better care.
So let's go back a little bit. Tell us how you got into this whole thing of, flying helicopters and the like.
Well, there's a longer history, but the short version is I'm retired Army.
Oh, there you go.
There you go.
Yeah, that's right. But I retired from the Army in 1995. I had a mixed career. I flew OH-58s as an Army scout pilot for most of my career, but I won the equivalent of the Army's lottery in aviation, and I got fixed wing training. So I've flown the OV-1D Mohawk, and what we call
what's that used for?
It was an observation aircraft developed in the 50s. Yes, and
I'm right there with you.
but it was used extensively in Vietnam. Our version was electronic intelligence gathering and airborne radar. So that was the Army's version of low-grade AWACS.
So you did a full career with the Army.
Yep, sure did.
Yeah.
Retired from the Army in '95, but I had more helicopter time than fixed wing time. So I marketed myself as dual qualified. And it turns out that with my level of experience, at the time I had about 3,600 hours mixed time. The air medical industry was looking for guys and gals like me. So my first job, I was interviewed for a job in Fargo, North Dakota. I got it. Now, I got the job because I think they couldn't find anybody for North Dakota.
I was going to say.
Don't know why.
What time of the year was it?
Right.
November.
Oh.
Yeah.
Yeah, that winter.
You were the only applicant, right?
I think so.
I'm kidding.
Yeah, it's like, hey, we got one. Yeah, really. Yeah. So, but that was in 1995.
So I want to back up a second and ask
Sure.
you about why Medevac. Were you looking for that, or was it just the job opportunity? Did it matter to you, or did you actually want to do Medevac?
I wanted to do Medevac from the beginning. Going back a little bit further, my father was in the Army, in the Air Force. They recruited him from the Air Force to work on that newfangled helicopter, the UH-1 Huey. Brand new at the time.
The Huey.
But I was a kid. I got to fly my first helicopter when I was 12. No kidding. With the Royal Thai Army, they let me fly up front. I actually flew it myself.
So you were destined for this.
I think so. I just loved it. I went through college, and while I was in college, I started telling my friends, "Hey, I think I'm going to join the Army." They thought, "What? You?" And so I joined up, and I told everybody that I want to fly Medevac. So that was the whole point of what I wanted to do from the beginning. I didn't do that in the military,
Right.
But I got out. That was the first job, and I've done it ever since.
Yeah. So tell us what it's like to be a Medevac pilot.
All right. We work as a team, and the we is myself as a pilot. We work with a really experienced flight nurse and a really experienced flight paramedic. We come to work in the mornings. We pre-flight the aircraft, get everything ready to go. The med crew readies their equipment. We get everything ready, and then we wait for the bell. When the bell goes off, we go. We fly wherever we need to go. Part of what we do is we fly to the scene of an accident. On a highway, it could be a field. And then the other thing we do is we go from smaller hospitals to larger hospitals.
Right. Because of the treatment that's needed.
Right. Yeah. Because, if you're in a really rural area and there's just a small hospital, they don't have the specialized care that's needed. So we'll go out to those places and then fly them to where they need to go.
What kind of aircraft do you guys mostly fly at PHI?
At PHI, we got a mix. Right here, we fly the the EC 135.
Eurocopter.
That's a Eurocopter, and it's now been taken over by Airbus. So
Right.
yes, I fly an Airbus.
Hey, there you go.
We've also got two Bell 407s in the area. It's a single engine helicopter, but we also operate another mix from Sikorsky S-76s to Learjets. So we're across the board, and we also have several A-stars, also Eurocopter Airbus, that's a single engine out.
So in addition to emergencies, you also transport patients for different reasons.
Right.
Via like on a Learjet, that's to take somebody.
Right. We do some international flights. The Learjet base is in Kansas City. That's associated with the Children's Hospital there, and they're a pretty well-renowned hospital. So our base with our Learjet will fly all across the country to pick up children that need that specialized care in Kansas City, and then flying back sometimes as well.
Yeah. You know, as a pilot, I've got to ask, did you have a question?
Oh yeah, I was wondering, since you're kind of a double threat in the industry, you're dual qualified with that. Do you guys have a dual qualification for your fleets? Are you qualified on each thing within your fleet?
Well, I'm qualified, but I don't stay current. in
Okay.
them.
Okay.
So right now I stay current in the EC 135 only.
Okay.
And one thing I should mention is that we're single pilot IFR. So we've got a little more advanced electronics than other places. We've got a 3-axis autopilot and full glass cockpit. And we can really do a lot of things. We can't fly everywhere,
Sure.
but under IFR, as a pilot, you can fly more places when the weather's lower.
Absolutely, and that's really important because that allows you to do more pickups of situations
Right.
that need it.
Right.
So,
Exactly right.
yeah. So I have to ask the obvious question. We are at a career expo.
Right.
What is your advice to these aspiring young aviators who may be interested in something like what you do?
Well, for one thing, I love flying helicopters. You can come to a stop and then watch the airplanes go by underneath you and then proceed once they're out of your way.
Wait a minute.
I'm kidding. But no, there are really two career tracks for young aviators that want to get into this line of work. Well, first off, this requires a high degree of skill. You need to be able to operate an aircraft safely, going to scenes of accidents out in the woods, on mountaintops. You need to be able to land on what looks like a postage stamp on the 13th floor of Johns Hopkins University Hospital, for example. So we look for people with a lot of experience, and that experience is upwards of 2,000 hours minimum required. So 2 tracks to get there. How do you get to that level? One's military, like I do. You get a lot of experience flying all branches of the military. My work partner on my work hitch is a Marine major, retired. I'm an Army warrant officer, retired. But the guys on the opposite ship, they're civil trained. So what these guys did was they went to Embry-Riddle University. They went to, did their own training at a renowned school in California. They got helicopter qualified because that's where the jobs were at the time. And they built their, they graduated, they were commercial pilots, they got their instrument ratings. Then they worked as instructors to build their time. And then they started working the next level jobs. These are photography, aerial photography, line work, electronic news gathering, tourism, and then but the other branch of our company does offshore oil support. So they build up their time that way, and then when you get to that level, then you move over into this job. It's a great job. I work a week on and a week off. So there's a lot of free time, but that week on, you're totally dedicated. You're 12-hour days. You can be expected to work up to 14 hours. And we do the first hitch during the day. I'll be off for a week. The next hitch is at night. So it's all in the dark. We work 24/7, 365, and it's a great job. You're always helping somebody.
It's a much needed service. Absolutely.
Yeah.
We appreciate that.
Yeah. There's a story of how it started, and really it started in Vietnam. The medical folks learned that in that first hour of a soldier being injured, if you can get them to where they need their care, or can get their care in that first hour, the odds of their survival rise astronomically. So they
MASH, right?
Yeah, MASH, exactly. So when Vietnam War was winding down in the early or late 70s, early 80s, we started putting helicopters at locations across the country where they'd be of help, and it's really increased the survival rate among people that have been severely injured in accidents, vehicle all the way up to construction accidents. So,
Well, Skip, it's been great to have you and hear about your career and what you guys do as a company. Yeah, it's been a pleasure having you on there, and it's great that you're here today to inspire some of the upcoming generation.
all right. Well, thank you very much. Appreciate it, Vince. Take care, Anna,
Thank
and
you.
thanks for what you do. Take care.
Thank you.
And there you have it. So those are some of the interviews that we did at the ProJet Aviation Education and Career Expo out there in the hangar at Leesburg Executive Airport. Had a great time. It was a great event, as you heard me talk about earlier, with Julie O'Brien, and was really engaging with hanging out with the kids. And then, as you saw, those are some fun interviews to do. There was one other interview that I did, but it had actually worse audio problems than the one that I had for Avemco, and that was the College of Missionary Aviation. So I'm going to have them back on at another point to talk about missionary aviation. In this particular case, they're a college, but also there's other missionary aviation that takes place. There's an organization that kind of specializes in that. And we'll talk about that because it's something great for another aspect of the industry for people to look into. So anyhow, thank you for joining me today and staying with me a little bit longer than normal. I hope you learned a few things from this really great expo that took place, and looking forward to continuing bringing you more insight on all things aviation and aerospace. My name is Vince Mickens with the Private Air Media Group. You guys take care.